Hey everybody, here we are again to talk about Dark and Darker. This is probably going to be the last time I do a video on this unless they do another patch. But Dark and Darker, the Iron Mace, the developers behind it, released another patch for the game that I believe is worth discussing and going over because it actually alleviates quite a few concerns that I had in my previous videos. And there are a lot of people in the previous videos who even now are still leaving comments saying, are you going to update your reviews? Are you going to blah, 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 blah? No, obviously I'm not going to go back and like unlist my old videos and not talk about things like that anymore because, you know, I made them when I made them and now I'm making new videos talking about updates to the games and developments that go on. But with that said, I'm not really like a Dark and Darker YouTuber. I'm someone who happens to be playing Dark and Darker, and I like giving my opinions on things, which now includes this game. That's because I think that their updates to the game since they've launched it have been nothing but good things, and I definitely think that because they're making good progress and they're improving the game, that it's worth continuing to talk about it. So this is probably going to be the last video I make on it because I'm not really sure they can make like another large improvement to the game. I don't really think that they're going to be doing a large content update. I might do like a total review video, maybe like in a week, something like that, after I experience a little bit more about the game. But for now, consider this is probably the last just talking about Dark and Darker video that we do. With that said, I am, of course, trying to make more and more videos because a lot of you guys just sort of like listening along to these sorts of videos, which is why I also remind people that, you know, for these videos where I just talk, do consider that you can just listen along, put me on a second monitor, put me on your TV while you're on your phone, you know, watch me while you're sleeping, any of those sorts of things. For this one, I did play some solo games and record some footage for it because I wanted something to show. And most of my runs today were just farming runs, so I kind of just did some gray runs where I ran at people and attacked them, and you can see some stuff there. So for this video, okay, finally we're getting to what this video is talking about. It's the new patch, it's the new update that they're doing to the game. So what are the problems with Dark and Darker's free-to-play system right now? Or at the very least, what I say, were still the problems yesterday. In no particular order are still the one character slot. I don't think they're ever going to give free-to-play players more than one character slot. They don't really seem to have any enthusiasm towards that. And at this point, it's kind of it's really crappy. But you know, there's not really a whole lot they can do. I do want to explain one thing for people that maybe don't really understand why the free-to-play issue is such a big issue for many people. For those of you who go into my comments and you go on Reddit and you talk about this and you say, oh my god, why are people so concerned with free-to-play? If they're not paying anything for the game, why do you care? Okay, so here's the problem. Because of the currency system they use, it's not regional currency. They're charging $30 US globally. So for somebody who lives in, for example, Turkey, they're paying up to 2.5 days wage in order to buy this game. For people that are living in Argentina, it could be 3 days wage to buy this game. For people living in South America, you could be looking at a day to 2 days wage to buy this game. In Eastern Europe, we're talking about a day to 2 days, once again, wage to buy this game. This is not a game, like I know for many of you people, you're thinking, why aren't people just buying the game? It's because they're not using the Steam system, but instead they're using their currency in store. They're avoiding regional pricing. Now, whether or not that was intended or that was an unfortunate holdover from when they couldn't be on Steam, I don't know. But at the current point, there are people who it would be, I know I make this joke a lot, it would be financially irresponsible for them to ever buy this game, ever. There are people who have actually had to make choices of paying for rent or buying this game. Like, this is, you know, kind of a big deal. So that's why I'm so concerned with whether or not this game is good for free-to-play players. I just want to say that and get that out of the way because so many people are disregarding that fact entirely. And I have a lot of people who watch me and a lot of people leave comments, and a lot of people simply put cannot afford this game. So it is I'm sorry. Yes, it is very much worth talking about the free-to-play issue. But let's go on, and then let's talk about more of the problem. So the one character slot is very much a problem. The other problem was the inability to access the market. I do believe that the inability to purchase items on the market is a very big deal. The first thing they could do is maybe, because you have two things you can do with the gold that you keep stockpiling. The first thing you can do is go to the goblin. Now, if you die and your loot is left on the ground, there is a chance that the goblin merchant will pick up your loot and you can buy it back from him. That is one thing you can do with your surplus gold. The second thing you do with your surplus gold is you can buy items on the marketplace. Now, because of how things work, generally speaking, unless an item is one of those best in slot items that probably isn't being left on the ground, but let's say hypothetically it is, you could buy an item back from the goblin for about 180 gold. That same item, if you just go ahead and buy it from the marketplace, will probably be about 90 to 100 gold. Which is to say that people who had access to the marketplace were getting a very large advantage from having access to the marketplace. It also meant that they could actually access the gear that they needed. There's a lot of times, if I wanted to find a blue and epic fine cuirass, there's very low chance that I could be a fine cuirassier. I would very unlikely ever be able to find that in my playtime. There are redeem tokens that you can get every so often, but it's not nearly enough to get you a good set of gear. If you want to do geared runs, if you want to continue to progress your character, the only realistic way to do it is with the marketplace. So I would say the one character slot is an issue. The inability to access the marketplace is an issue. And I'm going to be honest, I wouldn't really say there's much else an issue. The high roller is part of a problem because you can't really get legendaries without high roller. So if you're trying to do geared runs, then the inability to access high roller is definitely a problem because high roller is realistically the only way you can get legendary items by doing high roller runs and doing the high-end PvE. But to be fair, I don't think we're quite at the point in the game's lifespan where people are going to be able to pull out full perfect legendary gear. Epic gear for the most part is it's pretty much as good as legendary gear unless the legendary gear rolls some crazy stats. So it's really not that big a deal. I don't think high roller is even really that fun. So yeah. Now you do get a shared stash when you do have the actual paid account, but if you don't have multiple characters, there's no real point to have the shared stash anyway. Like it's kind of a pointless thing to begin with, right? Like you don't need a shared stash if you don't have multiple characters to share in between. So that doesn't really make sense. So then we're coming back to what are the two big issues? The inability to access the marketplace and the character slots. So then what's going on in this next patch and why I'm making this video? Well, as I just mentioned this, let me go through this new hotfix and what they did in it. Okay. So, fixed an issue where a character's name could sometimes not be entered when creating a new character. That's pointless. Fixed an issue where the druid's herbal sensing perk could not detect herbs. That was really weird that the druid's herbal sensing perk didn't do literally the one thing that it wanted to do. I'm going to skip through the rest of them because they're kind of getting the idea that none of this really matters and I'm kind of just being funny right now. Blah, 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 blah. Okay. Let me read their actual statement on this instead of just being funny and reading dumb patch notes. Okay. Please, we have also considered concerns about possible pay-to-win advantages due to the discrepancy in access to the marketplace between Squire and Legendary status accounts. Now, Squire accounts are the free-to-play, and Legendary are the paid accounts. Okay. In response to these concerns, we've decided to experiment with giving Squire accounts very limited access to the marketplace. Squire accounts can become an apprentice trader with the ability to only buy items from the marketplace. Only Legendary status accounts retain the right to become full-fledged traders with unrestricted access to the marketplace and the trading post. We have also decided to upgrade the exclusive shared stash to a full-sized stash as a thank you to our Legendary status accounts. We will continue to work on giving more value to all our Legendary adventures in the future. Thank you again for all your support. Okay, so for the next, I don't know, 20, 30 minutes, however much long I talk on this one, we're we're going to be going over that issue, and then we're going to be talking about Dark and Darker as a whole. Okay, so, yes. Free accounts can now buy from the marketplace. So that kind of just removed my, like, half of my only concerns about the current free-to-play issue. The character slots continue to maintain being a big issue, but you can now buy but not sell from the marketplace if you are a free player. Now, you can't sell, but that's kind of obvious why they're not allowing that to happen. And that's one of those unfortunate realities that realistically, I don't think they're ever going to circumvent that issue. And I do agree with their choice on this one. The harsh reality of the situation, they did make the game free to play, and anyone can buy a Steam account, and anyone can find hacks or cheats or whatever, and anyone can find a way on some various patch where they might actually work. Now, I personally have run into exactly 0 people ever who I thought were hacking. I have lost some fights horribly. I have found that the block is sometimes weirdly inconsistent, but I just tricked that up to block kind of being a really weird mechanic in this game. But I've not fought anyone that I thought, oh man, that dude's hacking. Like, no one's flown through a wall. No one's hovered above me. No one has actually one-shot me. But the company obviously does need to be concerned because other games like Tarkov will very, 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 very much have cheaters and people who completely obliterate their economy. So the problem is you do not want people who cheat, who get unfair advantages, to go to High Roller, to, you know, hack, kill all the enemy mobs, get all the perfect loot, put that on the marketplace for 7 gold and completely disrupt the economy. You don't want people who found horrible exploits or anything like that as a free-to-play player to then be able to bypass being banned by just making new accounts, continuing to use exploits, and putting things on the marketplace. I think that obviously there hasn't been any, people could say, well, there hasn't been any hackers yet, so why are, well, obviously the problem is in the future there needs to be a fail-safe where they need to be able to ban people who are clearly abusing things, and they need that ban to stick without them being able to immediately re-enter the system with a new Steam account, continue to sell items, and break the economy. Obviously, I don't think the economy in this game, like, destroys the game if it's broken. It would obviously make full gear runs much easier to do, but, you know, I don't think there's people trying to control the economy right now. I'm sure there's some people who are trying to play the auction house and anything like that, but at the end of the day, I think for most people, you go in, you buy an item, and then that's it. That's about all you do with the market. So with that said, though, you just can't give people unfair access to the market on a free-to-play basis. Now, what does this mean then for the free-to-play players? For the most part, and I'm going to talk about this, being unable to sell your items is not really that big a deal. Obviously, you will lose out on some gold, but for the most part, and I have kept track of this, for most blues that don't roll crazy good stats are probably going to sell to the vendor for about the same price as you could put them on the marketplace. There is a listing fee of 14 gold. Some of the blue items that have a high demand, or sorry, have a high supply without a super high demand, most of those items will sell for about 40 to 50 gold. So you could give them to the vendor for 24 gold, or you could sell them to a player for 40 to 50 gold. Realistically, selling to a player has about a 1 to 15 gold advantage over just selling it to the vendor. It's really not that big a deal. Most purples, I would say they kind of end up in the same regard. Epics have kind of decreased in price over the past few days from what I've noticed. At the very least, the lower end epics that don't really have any good stats aren't going to sell for much. Obviously, if your epic has rolled like weapon damage on a weapon, they'll generally vendor for more. So once you start going into the epic territory, you definitely, I just made 850 gold on an epic that rolled some pretty good stats. So I would definitely say that the inability to sell goods is definitely a disadvantage for free-to-play players. They will definitely be making less money. I don't think that's really arguable. I don't think anybody can look at this situation and say, oh yeah, they're doing just as good. But with everything I said earlier, I don't really see a solution to the problem. I don't really see how they can fix the problem at all. Now, this does raise the question then, with many people taking out of the market and less people putting into the market, will that increase demand without increasing supply? Yes. And then, of course, by these simple rules of supply and demand, we can then easily infer that the price of goods will slowly rise up. As the price of goods slowly rise up, that means inevitably, I think the average price for blues, purples, legendaries, etc., definitely legendaries, I think the price for those items will slowly rise up because, you know, I don't know how many people are free to play versus how many people are paid, but I'd wager it's probably like a 5-to-1 ratio. If I had to guarantee, maybe a 4-to-1 ratio, maybe there's like a 20% buy-in rate. I can't really say for sure. I mean, I don't know the stats. I could maybe Google them, but I wager it's about 20% of people have probably paid, if I had to wager, right? So we're talking there's like a 400% now demand, or I should say a 400% increase in demand. So will this now mean that being able to sell on the market is a larger advantage? Yes, of course, but I haven't not personally seen that much. In fact, I could go and I'll actually just go right now. I'm just gonna go open the client right now and see if over this past day of this system being allowed, if the price of goods has gone up that much. Because me personally, what I'll often do when I'm trying to start a new geared run, and I'm not willing to commit, you know, like the 1,000 to 2,000 gold to buy a pretty decent set of at least epics. What I'll probably do is just buy cheap low-end blues of items that are good. So, for example, if I roll a new character, or if I'm trying to like make a fighter, I'll go get a fine cuirass, and I'll just get that maybe at a rare, and you know, let me check rare. So yeah, okay. The prices have definitely gone up. Okay, that's actually we've gone from about 100 gold for a rare to 180. Looks like the prices on cheap epics have gone from 150 to 200 to 250 to 300. So yeah, prices are definitely going up. I think anyone who understands how economics works could probably have seen that one coming. But, you know, once again, I'm not really sure what they could do better than that, right? So obviously, at this point, yes, now selling on the market. I don't know why I didn't think about this before I said all of that earlier, but it's in the video, so what are you going to do? You're going to have to be learning with me how supply and demand works, right? We've definitely increased demand, and we have not increased supply, so prices are now going up. You know, so I would definitely say that the paid players have a very much larger advantage here, but you do need to consider, you know, like two things here, right? Like, obviously the paid players, they do need a reason to pay, right? Like there has to be a reason to give Iron Mace money. Cosmetics are one thing, and they could probably do much better with cosmetics. I think at some point they're probably gonna have to do quasi pay to win things. I guess, and this is kind of talking about the monetization of the game as a whole, right? They need to bring they need to bring Steam. They need to bring the game and buying the game onto Steam so that, like, there's more regional pricing. I know some regions don't have regional pricing because of the volatility, let's say, of the currency and things like that. But there definitely needs to be a system wherein if I want to be a werewolf, right? Okay, in America, it costs me, I don't even know because I haven't bought it. I'll say, what, $8 to be a werewolf. In Turkey, it cost me the equivalent of $300, right? And I'm using Turkey because they're kind of going through inflation, and there's a lot of Turks, and they always kind of talk about that. There's also a lot of Argentinians, but I think they've kind of gotten sad and don't really like talking about it anymore, right? I mean, and that's just what I'm saying. Like, the equivalent currency in other areas would just be so significantly higher. But and for the areas that aren't for the areas that are regionally priced, that aren't locked out of this system, right? You know, like Eastern Europe, like China, like India, like South America, minus Argentina. Those areas definitely need the ability to buy some of these goods at a fair price, right? At a fair price, let's say, for them. And so as they continue to monetize the game, They could do things like maybe legendary accounts access new maps like 2, 3, 4 weeks earlier. That would be cool. They could do things like legendary accounts are applicable for the ladder. I mean, that's probably how they're going to go about it anyway. They could do things like, well, they already have only legendary accounts can get high roller, right? They can maybe have some sort of 1v1 arena system that only legendary accounts can participate in. You know, there's definitely some ideas. You know, give me a comment on your ideas, things that you would buy a legendary account, or at the very least feel good having a legendary account to access, right? But I definitely think for things that like they need to make money on, because obviously as a company they need to make money, right? And so could that all be cosmetics? Well, there's only so many races they can add into the game, and there's only so many races that people care about. Lizardmen were kind of cool. Skeletons are kind of cool. Orcs are kind of not really well implemented. I kind of thought orcs were zombies. I kept seeing orcs, and I kept thinking that was a zombie. So I don't think they quite hit the mark on that one. Werewolves and lizardmen definitely seem to be underpowered as people get better and better gear. So I'm not really sure what they can do for that one either. Cosmetic gear, I don't think they can really do much for that. They could maybe do something where like, well, I don't really know how they would do it, right? Because like, how do you cosmetically change gear into better looking gear without kind of hiding how good that gear is, if you know what I mean, right? I don't know. It's kind of difficult to say how they can make money while keeping the game away from being pay to win. I think that's probably their biggest issue going forward. Because at this point, I mean, let's think about all the issues that they've solved, right? They solved the you can't bring gear into missions issue. That one's gone. They've solved the you can't access the marketplace issue. That's solved, right? They've done a lot of things to keep free-to-play players enjoying the game and in the game. And to be clear, for those of you who have paid for the game and you're maybe thinking, well, why did I even pay for this game? I paid for them. I should get more. So you have to remember the free-to-play players are content. They keep the game lively. They continue to watch YouTube videos. They continue to watch streams. They continue to keep people enjoying the game. So, you know, they help foster a community and they help keep this game alive just by existing. They reduce queue times, things like that, right? So free-to-play players definitely help. They also buy off the marketplace without adding to the marketplace. So you can continue to sell all those blues and items you find at now a very marked up value. Because, I mean, it's pretty clear to see when we look at the market, just my regular rare fine kuras, which I used to buy all the time and you guys saw me buy, because a rare fine kuras was a pretty cheap item that you could buy for at, you know, a pretty reasonable price to get pretty good stats. That's gone from 100 gold to nearly 200 gold now. So you can sell those items still, you legendary people, you buyers. I'm not saying you legendary like you guys are incredible. I'm just saying you bought the game. You are now considered a legendary account. Don't build your ego too much here, right? So you're definitely still benefiting from this whole system, right? So I guess now the thing is they're definitely seeing, because I think that definitely they can kind of see how the winds are blowing, so to speak, because the way they worded things leads me to believe that now what they're trying to do is they want to make sure that the people who bought the game feel good about buying the game as they continue to give more and more away to the free players. I definitely think that the people who bought the game will feel, well, why did I even buy the game? So, you know, that's kind of what I've been spitballing for the last 5 or so, however minutes I've been talking about this. I've kind of been spitballing about, you know, how can we keep these people enjoying the game without sort of, you know, making it more pay to win. I definitely think in arena mode, maybe like only on a couple days to keep people in the normal mode, because you don't want people only going into the arena mode, right? So I think like maybe they have Saturdays are arena days, something like that, right? I don't know, something like that. But only legendaries can do it, because you don't want this game to become an arena game. You know what I mean? And I definitely, this is me kind of like I'm kind of like pitching an idea, then talking about why that idea would be a bad idea. So, you know, don't think that they've ever talked about an arena mode or anything like that. They've never mentioned it. They've never talked about it. They've never even given the idea that they could be doing this. I'm just spitballing here, and then I'm talking through my idea. So I do think one downside, if they did add an arena mode, would be the inevitable posts of, well, now that we've added the 1v1/2v2/3v3 arena mode, it's pretty clear that X class is blatantly overpowered, right? And I definitely think we would see posts like that, because right now I think a lot of classes are balanced on how they move through the map, and a lot of classes are balanced on how they can just sort of evade combat and not be in combat. You know, if you lock someone in a room, if you tie someone's wrist to a fighter or a barbarian, the fighter or barbarian's probably going to win that fight 9 out of 10 times, right? If you tie fighter and barbarian's wrist together, I think depending on their gear, they would, you know, fight each other, and maybe one of them would come out more consistently than the other. But, you know, that's kind of the point I'm trying to make here, is that, you know, you maybe you'd want to avoid arena mode just to avoid those sorts of complaints. And that's why maybe I'd say, like, do it like 1 day a week is like, you know, a special event for legendary players. Maybe if you can get 3 wins in 5 hours, you could get a free epic item. I don't know, something like that. Maybe people would say that's pay to win. I don't know. I think if you kept it restricted to like 1 epic a week, like you got an extra roll token, something like that. Maybe I don't know. Hey, give me your ideas. Give me your comments on how you think you could keep legendary accounts having fun, because you know, I definitely do think they've made a lot of progress on the game. And I'm kind of wrapping up the video because there's nothing really else to talk about right now. But I definitely think... oh, they did add a couple other good things I want to talk about real quick. Real quick, they added some good things to the game. These are some good additions I actually want to call out. And I'm going to mention these directly because these have been very good additions to the game. In the future, if I do make a review video, I'll probably talk about this and like give it, you know, like proper mention instead of just like back-ending it on a video where I'm talking about other things and then I also am talking about this. And for those of you who don't really like Dark and Darker, and those of you who maybe want more Total War or Paradox games or stuff like that, for those of you who are here just to listen to me talk, I will go into stuff like that. I did do my EU5 video. Olaf, none of you showed up to watch it, okay? So, I'll do some Total War videos, stuff like that, in the future. So, yeah. Anyway, the 2 things that I want to call out are let me see here. When you enter a normal game, the Squire will inform you of the gear score criteria. Okay, so previously it was like everyone kind of knew that you needed 25 gear score, but some people, especially people who joined after the changes, might not know that if you go above 25 gear score, you're going into the anyone goes territory. So again, if you're at 25 or below gear score, then you're only queued with 25 and below gear score. Above that, you're queued with literally anyone. So the Squire informing people of that, if you try to queue up and be like, hey man, don't screw your teammates, or hey man, you're about to have a very bad time in this game, or hey man, I notice you're having fun in this game, don't ruin it. You know, that's very much a good addition to the game. Yeah. The second one is the location of the portal pedestal is now displayed on the minimap. Outside of a couple locations that are bugged and are not quite working right on this patch, which I'm sure will be fixed pretty quickly, you can now see all the escape portals properly listed on the minimap. So you no longer have to do what I do, which is open up Reddit and look at Reddit to find all the escape portals on the map, because they're not actually listed on the minimap. You'll probably do that anyway, because then you'll be able to see where you need to go. But, you know, it is good that you can now see that on the minimap. So that definitely helps people who are new to the game and don't really understand what's happening, because now they can see portal on minimap, me go there, me run out area, right? Like you can see that, and that helps you a lot. And of course, you know, being able to see that you're about to ruin your game by going above 25 gear score, that also helps your game. The 25 gear score is an interesting system. I'd like to see that enhanced a little bit. So again, I'd like to see it like 0 to 25 gear score. I'd also like to see a 0 to 200 gear score bracket. I know that that's splitting the player base up a lot, but right now the player base is fairly large, and I definitely think most of the time when you go above 200 gear score, or say when you go above 25 gear score, you end up with other people with around 100 to 200 gear score most of the time. But every so often, you get douchebag McGee who runs around with his full legendaries, just completely pub stomping. And that sucks, and especially because it's permaloot, so you lose all your gear and you lose all your progression to people that you couldn't reasonably beat. You could beat them, I agree, if like two groups, like I have seen legendary douchebag McGee, I have seen them die because they're fighting one group and another group happens upon them and they end up dead. I have seen that happen, and that's very funny to me. But, you know, for the most part, I think, like, you should reasonably be able to fight against another group. I would say that that's true. You should reasonably be able to have a fair match, a fair competition. And I think that increasing it so it's 0 to 25, then 26 to 200. Because 26 to 200 allows you to make some choices. You could use some epics. You could use some blues. You could go in greens, and I definitely think people will twink out and min-max for 200. So there's only so much you can do with the system, but I think that system would also then allow players to slightly gear up without slightly gearing up, meaning they can now just get completely turbo rammed into death, right? Because there's not much you can do when you turn the corner and Legendary McGee is around the corner. Like, he's running at you. You need to hit him in the head 6 times to kill him. He needs to hit you in the body 3 times to kill you, right? So it's just a little bit unfair that Turbo McGee is over there. Anyway, that's going to be about this video. That's about all I got. So give me comments, give me thoughts. I think the changes they did here are, again, positive, unless they do another patch where they do a bunch of positive changes. Unless they do another patch, I don't really see myself making another video. I could maybe see myself doing a review video on this, but we got Elden Ring coming in soon. There are some things happening with Total War I want to talk about. I've never actually done a Total War review video, which I definitely need to do. But I do think you guys enjoy videos where we just sort of talk and have videos and you guys can talk and listen. Well, I guess you guys listen, I do the talking. But I always like the comments from you guys. So anyway, thank you all for watching. Thank you all for being here. Thank you, everybody. And have a great rest of your day.